Ah, God. Okay. We're here. We did it. Wow. Good morning. Must sound strange to you guys in New York, but in Florida. But Sweaty Cop, Sunday Night Live, and Monday morning, almost alive. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Whatever. So, next week is we should be starting our. Let me get you guys here. Is that it? Yeah. Oh, there you go. Okay, cool. Why is this so big? Uh, there. Okay. So anyway, so next, I'll wait till a lot of people get on. We got 7 there and 15 there. We don't have a lot of people. I guess everyone thought we were not going to make it today. Almost didn't make it. Hey, hey, Nicole. So, and I don't know who Dodka is. And must be Melody as well down there. And Sydney. All right. And what's going on here? Okay, so we got 15 and 7. Not many people. Huh. All right. Well, anyway, I wanted to tell you all that what we're going to do is uh, for everyone that's been on the inner circle, or you can get on it right away. I mean, not the inner circle, but signed up for the groups. We're gonna make, we're gonna give access. You'll get an email probably tomorrow or something about getting access to um, the group that you wanted to get into. So that's happening this week now. Tomorrow, I guess, because for you it's Sunday. All right, so I guess on your Monday or so you'll be getting some sort of email or something to let you know that that's happening. And then the week after we'll start our our um, our interactions, and these kind of things, these live things. But that'll give you a week to get look at all the material on there and watch some videos and then give us some suggestions. Tell us anything you think that we can make this better, right? Because it's a growing and evolving thing. And what I'm actually doing is I want to start including other people. Um, I'm going to be working with a naturopath, and I'll bring her on at some point, and she'll be she's in alignment with me in thinking and approach to health. So she'll be able to answer the way I would in a lot of situations, and uh, but she'll collaborate with me on all those if she's not sure or whatever. But anyway, so she's going to be on part of it. She's going to help me put this content together. I'm also looking at bringing Darren and Vanessa, who are you all may know of Darren. Darren is the kinesiologist and incredible. There's not like the second person close to him. So, um, but for example, do I have to like work out strenuously, like like sweat and all that? And the answer is no. Because what is my goal? What am I looking for? So anyway, it turns out strength, it turns out type 2 muscle fibers, things like that. So it gives us an exact, hi there from Calgary. Uh, it gives us an exact, we know what we're doing. And that's one of the things that I have such an obsession with is if we're going to help someone, I mean, in your life, think about it. If you're going to help someone, a neighbor, a child, a friend, you're going to help them. So you got to know what it is you want to achieve. And if it's kind of a longer term situation, how are you going to know you're on your way? How are you going to know that you're on the road to that success, right? And that's what I see in a lot of centers. I visit lots of clinics, and there's no, the plan is usually vague. It's extremely vague. Like, got to get rid of this tumor. Okay, okay, that's not vague. I got that. And how are you going to get there? Well, we're going to do, and it's just a bunch of stuff they're going to do to the person to get rid of that. And so when I hear that, first of all, I know there's a complete misunderstanding of what's going on, right? It's not like this thing got into you. It's not like a parasite and you got to get it out. It's not that, right? Okay, it's manifesting through you. Why? How's this happening? Let me turn off whatever it is that's making it happen. Anyway, I don't see that kind of critical thought, and therefore that's why we don't see any results when we look at the data from 1950 to 2010, right, by the CDC and NCI. We see that there's been no change in the mortality rates 60 years. And that's because we're not even on the right road. So anyway, so the thing about Darren is we got specific. We need type 2 muscle fibers. We know that strength correlates with longevity. From all causes? Yeah. How do we build that up? Do I have to go at the gym? No. I can do simple things, like, not simple, but I got to do things like, and not a lot, but five. What do you call it? I do this 5 times. Sitting down in a chair, and then you stand and sit, stand and sit. So sit to stands, as many as you can do in 30 seconds. Count them, and then you're going to work on it from then on, and you do that again. You can do that again. You can wait a couple minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever, however long you want, and then do it again. So do it 5 times. And then another test of strength is how many can you do in 5 seconds? 5 seconds. Another thing is just climbing stairs. 70 seconds. 70 seconds. And if you don't have a stairway and you can build a thing, just climb up and down and up and down. 70 seconds increases natural killer cells. So if we know, in other words, let's make sure that whatever we're doing, we've got a goal in mind. We know we can achieve it. And how do we know? Is there anything we can measure? Yeah, we can measure with strength. We can measure hand grip. Hand grip is correlated with longevity, correlated with your ability to make it through any CFC situation. Strength, yes. So Darren, we'll have Darren on. Vanessa will help the School of Life, teaching all about all the things that we talk about have been put into like a School of Life. So I want to get that out there. And yeah. So anyway, I want to start broadening that. But for now, we're going to just start these groups. And so anyway, so remember, you're gonna you'll have access to the for everybody's on that has joined the, what do you call it? What's it called? Inner Circle. So, and you'll be able to have access to, as I said, whatever groups you want to get into and whatever's on there. The other thing is we're going to set up the Telegram chat closed group. So that'll be that. And then the week after, we're going to start with the lives, where we're going to have specific topics with those. The topics, meaning that, like, for example, parasites. I'll talk about one issue for 15 minutes, and then we'll open it up, and we'll all have a discussion on it. And you can talk about other things as well. You don't have to. It's just that. Same thing with CFCs. We'll have a discussion, and the same thing with the health and healing. So that's how that'll go. All right. And so basically, the topics for September. That's the month we're in. Yeah. Okay. So for the health and healing group, there's going to be 2, right? 2 lives where we're all of us in the health and healing will be on a Zoom, and I can share screens and teach without waving my hands like an Italian. Eh? So, I'd heard one time, if you if you tie, if you want to shut an Italian up, you just handcuff him or tie his hands down. If you can't, you move his hands, can't talk. And it turns out to be true. And I didn't grow up in Italy, and I didn't even grow up among a big Italian family because my mother didn't like that. So she grabbed me at the age of 2 and ran away to California. And so I didn't have all that Italian stuff, but I talk like this. It must be genetic, right? Anyway, so the health and healing group. So the two areas that I'll be focusing on, and remember, you don't have to stay on them, but for that, the first one will be is what is intermittent fasting really? And because it's not what they say it is, but why is it really good for you? In what way? I mean, why? Don't you hate it when people say it's really good for you? It improves cardiovascular health and it increases immunity. And okay, yeah, how? I'm not like it's kind of like the WebMD or whatever it is when they're asking questions. How long does somebody live if they get diagnosed with? It's stupid questions that nobody asks except them. But they want you to start thinking that way. So don't do it. Don't even read that stuff. But anyway, so what is really intermittent fasting? And then other side, and then what is real fasting? And what is it what are either of those relationship to longevity and to vitality and things like that? So that's what we'll be talking about in the first one. And then again, and like what I was just referring to with Darren, we're going to talk about what exercises will specifically not only give us vitality now, but extend our lives. So if someone were to say to you, okay, what do you want to be able to do at the age of 80? Right? So if you want to be able to do that at the age of 80, then you got to be able to do this now. So let's get there, right? So how do we do that? Right? And it turns out, yeah, so we're going to talk about that. They'll be the two. But remember, I'm going to talk about it, give you some research. You can ask questions about that. We can talk about that. But if you have another question you want to ask about health and healing, you can. So for the Parasite group, the first topic we're going to go on to is what is the truth about ivermectin, right? All of a sudden, what's his name? Came out. What's his name? Right. He was the, God, I forgot his name. He was the, what do you call it? He was the vice president and chief medical science officer for Pfizer, right? He's kind of he left them when all this started, but he has been quite respected and all that. And suddenly he comes out and says that, no, not Fauci. It was what a drag it is getting old. And I'll bet none of you are old enough to remember that song, right? Who wrote it? Who wrote the song? Anybody know? Who sang it? Anybody know? Well, my singing, you don't know. Who could be? I mean, what a drag it is getting older. Kids are different today. I hear every mother say, you don't know. We got everybody's young. Is everybody that young? My gosh. The Stones. You ever hear the Rolling Stones? Anyway, so the guy's name was. See, I'm trying to find. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, he says ivermectin is like the worst, most dangerous anti-fertility drug. Right? And he's got everybody. I'm getting all kinds of stuff saying, whoa, 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 whoa. And I think, not Dylan, Stones. What a drag it is getting old. It was about Mother. It was called Mother's Little Helper. Yeah. So she's getting older. It's a good song. She's getting older, so she's taking these yellow pills. And we, in those days when we were thinking about it, we thought those yellow pills were Nembutal, which are kind of like Seconal, which are kind of like barbiturates, because a lot of people like that stuff. They like to be like that. I don't know why, but kind of like a tranquilizer. Mother's Little Helper, they called it. I mean, in that song, yeah. But the dragon is getting older. Anyway, good song. So here we are. So so the truth about ivermectin, is it really anti-fertility? Are there studies? Let's find out, because I've been taking it. I've been telling everyone to take it, and it's so I want to find out, and I did find out. So don't worry. Just to give you what is it called? A spoiler? Don't worry. But anyway, we'll talk about it. The other one is there a natural way to eliminate parasites? That's what we're gonna. Is there? And if there is, what is it? How do we do it? Okay, so that's for the first month for September, the two main things, and then remember we can talk about anything. But and then the CFC guidance group, is going to be and because it's very important. Do I need to get surgery? And that's from a lumpectomy to whatever, to a biopsy, even that's surgery. Do I need to let somebody penetrate my skin or remove a part of my body? Do I need to? If I do, I get that's a legitimate question. And if so, how do I prepare for it? How do I prepare for it so I get the least damage? Potential damage. And then also what are the conditions where you might? I think it's important. I mean, what conditions do we need to get it? Okay, so the second, but the CFC guidance group will have 3 lives that every month, right? So the second one will be, can I do both conventional and integrative therapies at the same time, right? So because a lot of people want to do that, and there's only 2 reasons you would ask that question. Can I do your program? And so why would you ask the question? There's 2 reasons. Number 1, doubt. You don't know if you don't know really. So you want to be sure and do this one just in case. But if you really understood it and you said you want to be doing this one just in case, what? In case you're going to live, you want to make sure you're not going to live. Yeah, do this one. I know. He's crazy. It saved my. Okay, we'll get into all that. And please, one thing when we're talking and doing all this stuff, you guys don't get personal with each other. Okay, I'm not doing this for any other reason that I'm trying to help. And I'm certainly not going to say something that I don't know is true. If I don't know it's true, I'll tell you. But don't get all freaked out and call me names, or in a group start calling each other names, and don't get into factions of, come on, man. We're all here. Listen, we're all in this group called Earthlings, human Earthlings, right? And we all, believe it or not, are the same. I know. Brad Pitt and Angelina and whoever's popular now, they're not the same, right? They're different. No, they're not. They're the same. And I'll tell you how I know. I'll bet you it would take me less than 30 seconds if we could open their abdomens, and I could tell you I'll find their portal vein within a second. And I'll find also their vena cava. I'll find we're the same. Yeah, but I'm really different because I grew up with that. No, we're not. You're not different. You need to be loved, and you need love. You need to touch. You need to be touched. You need to be appreciated. You need to have something in your life that gets you excited, that you get to do, makes you feel good about yourself. So whoever you are, you need these things. Right? So, because you can have money, you can have 4 Maseratis and villas all over the world, and if you have no friends and no one to love, that doesn't mean nothing. It means nothing. So, anyway, we're all the same. Not one of the Beatles. It was as I said, it was the Rolling Stones, and Mick Jagger sang it. I'm not sure who wrote it. Of that group, but they probably all wrote it together. yeah. So anyway, that's doubt. So you'll have doubt. Number one. Number two, the reason why you would say, "Can I do both?" is because family and friends are pressuring you to do this, pressuring you to, you know, okay, so those would be the two reasons you might ask that question, but we're going to answer. We're going to talk about that question. The third one is on for the month of September would be how to manage pain that's related to CFCs. All right, because that's a big deal, and I got some people really crazy on TikTok. I mean, if it wasn't an app and they could have got their hands around my neck, I wouldn't be here today because I was talking about opiates. I got a lot of people like, whoa, you know. So anyway, but I'm going to talk about it again. You know why? Because it's important. Because a lot of people have pain, and we have to know. Let's talk about it, okay? And then we'll be. And then the time. Hey, TikTok people, get on this group. Let's talk and let's interact, man. Let's interact. Okay. All right. So that's what we're gonna do. All right. And you all know how to get on here, right? Right? Dr. Thomas Lodi, Dr. Thomas Lodi, all of them, Rumble, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of them, except YouTube, except for Twitter or X, which is Dr. Thomas Lodi, MD. Okay, so all right, so let's get into some questions. All right. All right, cool. And what do we got going on here? All right, so some people are showing up. That's nice. Okay. Questions. Let's look at. All right, so here is actually I wanted to talk about a couple things before we get into questions. Yeah. And it's just I you may remember or recall I mentioned maybe once or twice or maybe even more that we were talking about the effect of the mind on our body and how powerful that effect is. Yeah. So I had mentioned I was giving some examples like two young women 30 years old become they become roommates, and within a couple months they're both menstruating at the same time. And my point was they didn't plan it, they didn't discuss it, just happened, right? And it didn't just happen. It shows that our mind's effect on our body, and it goes, in that respect, it goes through the hypothalamus, right? And the hypothalamus to the pituitary to the ovaries, right? But why? How did that happen? But that's how. Another one is you got a couple trying to get pregnant. They try 5, 6, 7, 8 years. They finally say, "Forget it. We're going to adopt." They adopt. Next month, she gets pregnant. How that happened? And then the other one I said that, and this is the one that got a lot of people upset, and I didn't know why they got upset. Anyway, and that is if you had 100 women trying to get pregnant with their partner. I hate that word. Why did I use that? What's wrong with me? With their boyfriend or husband or whatever, trying to get pregnant, and you have 100 women who get raped, you'll have more women. More of the rape the victims will get pregnant than the women trying. And whoa, people were like angry, and so anyway, all I wanted to say to you is, for those of you who got angry, for those of you who think that I'm out of my mind, I just thought I'd just show you, give you one study you can look at. Okay, all right. So if you September 1st, no, I said it's 2003. Okay, it's Gottschall, Gottschall. Okay, and it's in a journal called Human Nature, and it was called "Are Peer Incident Rape Pregnancy Rates Higher? Are per incident rape pregnancies higher than per incident consensual pregnancy rates?" In other words, per incident. And it turns out that we're talking about women of reproductive age, of course. Okay, so women trying to conceive, looking to conceive, on any given day of the part of the cycle where she can conceive, she has a 3.1% chance of getting pregnant. Women who get raped, on any one incident of getting raped, has a 6.42% chance of getting pregnant. It's double. I didn't, it's not. So please, I'm just telling. My point was, what's going on there? I didn't know. I don't have the answer. I'm just showing you that our minds are powerful, and the bottom line here is that because our minds are powerful, let's respect them and let's say, whoa, yeah, I want to control my environment. I want to control things like that, but I better learn to try to control my mind because it's really got much more power than I ever thought. Right? That's the idea of it, And I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. The hypotheses in there are that rapists somehow can sense when a woman is ovulating or in that period, that few day period where she can conceive, and then there's other hypotheses that include that when women are in that area, let's say, so it's probably usually, if you had a regular cycle of 28, 30 days, it's anywhere from day 12 to day 15 or 16. That's just like the area there. They say that the women walk differently. Their gait is different. They're more symmetrical. I mean, it's a lot of stuff, I guess they're just more, oozing sexuality at that time, not on purpose. It's just part of their physiology. And I personally have never. No, I couldn't like look at 10 women standing there and tell you which ones are around ovulation. I wouldn't know. So it's not. So anyway, they're saying those, and what else are they saying? Okay, so and then the other hypothesis is that the I'm not having to use the word excitement, but the whatever you're going to call that of the moment causes ovulation. So anyway, they don't know why. All right, so that's the thing. And then one other thing I want to talk about, because I always talk about I always talk about the greatest country in the world, right? Oh, mentioning. Okay, so anyway, but what really struck me is I found out that and this is kind of, I just didn't expect it in today's the way I look at today's people. But there was a recent they do it by questionnaire, but the Japanese are very good at answering it. Anyway, they found out that 42% of the men and 44% of the women, these were young men and women, were still virgins. I forget what age, like 25 or something. Like really, I mean, like young. However, 90% of them wanted to eventually get married. So, and 5 years ago when they did this same survey, it was 37%. So it's gone up. So when you put that together with the fact that, yes, Japan has the highest life expectancy of 83.7 years, right? Higher than the UK, higher than all of us. And you put that together with the fact that they also have the lowest fertility rates. To keep it's called the total fertility rate. In order to keep a population stable, in other words, the replacement rate, that each woman of childbearing age needs to have 2.1 children. It's that 0.1 that's hard to come out, but statistics, right? Okay. You need 2.1 children per a woman who's of that age to sustain a population. Otherwise, the mortality will drag it down. So Japan has 1.3. So they're real low. In fact, Japanese have extrapolated to the last day that a Japanese person will be born. It's crazy. All right. So, but part of it, obviously, is the fact that they're remaining virgins. And oh my God, I can just imagine what people are saying. Please put down your Bibles and your things and don't throw them at me. I know you wouldn't throw them. Don't throw something else at me. What I'm saying is that listen. You all remember who made our body? Okay. God. Okay. You don't, I know there's no God. Okay. There's no God. Nature. Okay. And nature, what does nature say and God say at about the age of 12? Right? Everyone gets a little knock on the door down there and says, hey, hello, hi, you don't know me, but I'm going to change your life a little bit, and your life gets changed at 12, 13, 14. And our societies say, no, are you kidding? You got to do blah, 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 blah. Right? So we have this big conflict between nature and should do. Okay, well, that exists. Okay, so what I'm saying is that we probably should be getting together earlier in life, because here we have these. I mean, we're talking about losing. If you can extrapolate to the last day that a person would be born in of certain ethnicity, that's a big deal. All right, so okay. So what does the other countries have? Well, the UK is 1.89, which means they don't have enough to sustain. And what's the US? 1.71. Yeah. And this was 2019 data. 2019 data. So who knows? Now, since we've had all the wonderful additions to our life, I don't know, synthetic bacteria, graphene oxide, what else have we had? Genetic modification, spike protein. I mean, all kinds of incredibly wonderful things. So we might see that that's even different now, but that's pretty freaky. So that all came to my mind. I wanted to share it with you guys. So I know you guys are interested in this, whether you know it or not, because, yeah. So anyway, so fertility rates now, and then and then I went, so then there was this mortality database between 1990 and 2018. They looked at all the English speaking countries, which includes the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK, Ireland, which is Ireland and Scotland. And guess who had the least life expectancy, the highest mortality? Tick, tock, tick. You got it right. It is the greatest country in the world. Yes. Who, by the way, is 141 globally in infant mortality as well. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, it's just a crazy world we live in, and it's really good to know the facts and the data, and it's really good to understand, for me, to understand the context in which I live and all that sort of thing, right? I need to understand that, and maybe you don't, but I think you do, because you're here. Yeah. Okay. And then, what I'd like to talk about too, but I know we want to get into questions, is I'd like to talk a little bit about the cholesterol myth, but I'll save it. Anyway, so let's get down here. So the first question was from Kimberly, and she said, "Can a 40-day water fast kill parasites?" Yeah, yes, but not all of them. It's not enough. When we talk about parasites, understand that we're not talking about how many do I have. It's not. We don't think in terms of numbers. The term that's used is biomass. Okay, it's beyond the concept of infestation. Yeah, and remember something too. Remember when we talk about our relationship with organisms, microorganisms, they can be it can be what's called mutualism, where they're getting benefit and we're getting benefit, right? That's our gut biome, our oral biome, usually, and the ones on our skin and all that. We're both that's where they live, and they do what they do, and what they do is good for us, so it's great, right? Okay, that's called mutualism. Then there's commensalism, which is they're getting benefit and we're not harmed. And then there's parasitism, where they're getting benefit and we're harmed. That's a parasite. Okay. Now, my understanding, the way I look at things, is that what were commensal organisms, say 150 years ago, are now have become parasitic because of our immune systems have been profoundly degraded and diminished. Yeah. And it's happening even more and more. And as a matter of fact, we know now that EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, that we're all exposed to at this very minute, and an hour ago, and 3 hours from now, affects our commensals. I don't know what it's doing to them, but it's affecting them. So anyway, so to answer your question, Kimberly, yeah, we a 40-day water fast is fantastic, and you even if you did a 40-day water fast, you have rebooted your system. I mean, yeah. I don't know, depending on how old you are, but you went back like 20 years or more. Not if you're 25, you didn't go back 20 years. But anyway, it's incredible what it does, and that's one thing I want to talk about on the group in the groups, is I want to get into the details, because when I say things, you know it sounds broad and sweeping, and I just want you to know that it's there's some real reasons. I mean, how could a water fast do that? Well, one of the ketone bodies that are produced in ketosis from that is called beta hydroxybutyrate, and that the beta hydroxybutyrate does what? It restores your endothelium. What? You mean the lining of your blood vessels? Why is that important? We'll talk about that. I mean, yeah. So I mean, that's just one of the things. So anyway, fasting, yes. So, but you'd have no. But I would, that wouldn't be the way to do it. The way to, if you wanted to use fasting. So that's your question. We're going to talk about natural ways, but no, a 40-day water fast won't do all of them. Okay. Because you've got eggs. And we don't even develop an immune response to adult parasites. Because why? Unless they just came into us, but they don't usually come into us. They come into us as larvae, and so, or a kind of a form like that. But as they're growing, if they hatch from an egg and they grow, the materials that they are able to use is our body. And therefore, our immune system doesn't see them as separate, because they're made of us. But what the immune system does see is something called soluble egg antigen. And soluble egg antigen is because the eggs are them 100%. Even though they came from their body, it's still egg. It's still their, what do you call it? Their genetic material. Okay. So that's why the water fast won't do it in 40 days. Okay. You'd have to do like maybe let's say a 2-week water fast, then eat for about a month, and then do a 2-week water fast and eat for about a month, and then. But you should do that anyway. I mean, that'd be great, fantastic. But still, that's not going to do it, because of what's happened because of our immune systems. You'd have to do other things to strengthen your immune system, because our immune systems have become severely weakened. And I know this because I'm not just saying this. I do something called lymphocyte subset, and I look at people's immune. I look at their T cells, their T4s, their T8s, their T17s, their Tregs, their B cells, the T50, the natural killer cell, all of them, and their ratios and all that. And we're in trouble. whether you have CFCs or whatever, doesn't matter. We're in trouble. It's getting down. It's getting down, and that's what we got to work on. That's really what we have to work on. Is getting our immune system strong. Because if we could be restored to optimal functioning, which is the only true definition of health, you know what? We'd be fine. We'd be fine. Yeah, we're not there. We have right. they when I say they, I mean they have probably, they've done one of the most, I guess, I don't study war, so I don't know, but I would think if I were in war, the one thing I want to do is get rid of their ability to defend themselves. And that's what's happened. So now, okay, so now we have a new one here. Boz. Is that the name? Boz? Okay. Excuse me. I can't see too clearly. There we go. Yay. Okay, Boz. I've listened to your webinar on parasites and your protocol. I have obtained most of the medications that you spoke of, except for 2, praziquantel and fenbendazole. Can I use niclosamide 500 milligrams 3 times a day instead of praziquantel? Yes. And it depends, and if you think you might have certain things, then you would want to try to get praziquantel. Like, for example, if you thought for you that there was any chance of you having a liver fluke, and there are certain other ones, like certain cysts in the brain and stuff. But yeah, for the most part, absolutely, niclosamide can. Yeah. You don't need them all. I have mebendazole 100 milligrams and albendazole 400 milligrams. Can I use these together, and what should be the dosage for albendazole? Well, the thing about the benzimidazoles, which are the group that we're talking about, which includes fenbendazole and a few others, is that they basically do very, very similar thing. I mean, well, the fundamental thing they do is they block the microtubules. So the parasite can't move, eat, can't function. For us, if we have CFCs, they can't divide, so it's good. But there's very little difference between them. And somehow, I don't know how it happened, but they, it's all drug companies. They were doing research with mebendazole on humans and albendazole on humans, and they were doing fenbendazole on animals, but they were also doing it on humans. But for some reason, the popular idea is that fenbendazole was for horses or animals, and not for humans, as if it would be like bad for human, unhealthy for human. It's just not true. I mean, and if anyone who might doubt that is just look up the Joe Tippin story. Okay, and the Joe Tippin story tells us just there that the fenbendazole is just quite fine. And then I look at the research and I say, well, mebendazole is the only one I can find that does actually kills the CFC stem cells. But I'm sure these other guys do too, because they're pretty much the same. So I wouldn't necessarily take them both. But if you're going to do it, and remember, if you're going to start a parasite protocol cleanse, you should do a couple things. Number one, you should make sure that you should get somehow get a blood test to see how your liver is. All right, because depending if your liver's fine and healthy, then you can start with any protocol you find that you think will work for you, or you're given by someone. Number one. Number two, if it's, let's say your liver enzymes are elevated, well, two things. You better find out why. Let's find out what's going on. Why are they elevated? Number one. Number two, I still got to get rid of these parasites. So therefore, I got to lower the dose and the frequency. So you got to have someone help you with that. So that before you start anything, I would do that. And then Can you talk more about the foods and any medication that can be taken to help with the symptoms that will come from the die-off? How safe is veterinary grade injectable ivermectin solution for human oral consumption versus human grade pills, in your opinion? All right, so if something is when you want to take a substance and be able to inject it into the body, you need like, let's say you had a compounding pharmacy, you'd have to have a special room, and I don't know how they classify them. I think it's class 4 in terms of cleanliness, avoiding all contaminations, because the idea is that if you're going to give something in, especially inject into someone's vein, it's got to have nothing in there that's going to cause a problem, right? So they look for, they do, and then once you're done, when you have the product, they have rooms where you have to change clothing before you get in to them. Yeah, you actually have to put something on, and you've washed up and you've got gloves and all that stuff, and hair, something over your head, and you go into this room, and the room has special ventilation, and it's a whole very, very specific requirements for that kind of room. And then in the end, when you get your product, you've got to have it, you have to have a third party give you a certificate of analysis, like, what is this? 98% this, 20.2% this, whatever. Well, I don't know exactly what's in it. You need a certificate of analysis. So that's, so it's a very careful thing. So therefore what I'm saying is that if they've got an injectable form of ivermectin, then it's pretty clean. And yeah, you could take it orally, but sure. But I mean, it's anything that's for injection is probably going to taste terrible. But yeah, but the broader point here is the ivermectin that a veterinarian would use, or the fenbendazole that a veterinarian would use, is that the same that a human would good for? Yes. In fact, there are a lot of medications that are so much cheaper to the veterinarian, for the animals. Just like the big, the drug companies, the big pharma, they have one price for this country and another price for that country. So the same thing. So you can get the same medications in India or in other countries, like some in South America and in Africa. That same medication in Canada or the U.S. would be much more expensive. But Canada cheaper than here, than the U.S. and then U.S. So it's all yeah, but it's the same thing. The point is, it's the same. They're the same drugs. They're the same formulas, right? And I plan to do 3 weeks on, 1 week off on protocol that you've described. I'm 37-year-old male, 100 kilograms. Would you accept? So here's the thing. I hear what you're saying. Can I do the follow adequate for your weight? And you have to understand that both ethically and legally, I can't tell you what to do like that. I can't say you should do this much, this type, 500 milligrams 3 times a day. I can only say in general what is a protocol that works really well for someone with a healthy liver, and or what I would prescribe for a person I was working with if I had checked them out and they were able to handle it. But I can't tell you because I don't know. And you weigh 100 kilograms, and you're 37. So I don't know 100 kilo. I don't know how tall you are. So I don't know. Are you overweight? Are you normal? Are you like, what is your BMI? Is your BMI is below 25? Right. So, I don't know your health, and I don't know your liver and all that. So I just can't say. But the remember, the thing that I outlined, the protocols that I outlined were for a healthy person. I really think it'd be great if you can find someone to help you, some clinician to help you by getting just that you got to know your liver function. That's it, right? All the other stuff really doesn't matter. You're not going to find them in your body on any testing, so don't look for them, right? And if you have worms, if you have things that you can see, that's like, that uh, there's like an expression or a common sense knowledge that if you see a cockroach, there's 100 more or something like that, right? That's if you see worms, you can be rest. I hate them. I'm not going to use idioms. If you see worms, then you know for sure that there are millions and millions of eggs and stuff. Yeah. But if you don't see worms, there are probably still millions and millions of eggs. That's the problem. This is such an undiagnosable situation. It's crazy. So now, but the ones you're mentioning are great. Albendazole, pyrantyl palmitoate, tinidazole, metronidazole. But you don't really need nitazoxanide. I mean, you got a lot of it. You got 3 antiprotozoals there, and even though nitazoxanide is also for worms and stuff, and you've got 3 anti fungals. Ivermectin, niclosamide, praziquantel, mebendazole, albendazole, pyrantyl. So it's a lot. It looks like what you're doing is more than you need. But I don't know you, and I don't know what your condition is, what you're dealing with. So it's really, I can't say. It sounds like you don't need as much in terms of anti-helminthics, anti-protozoals, anti-fungals, but because you've got them all. I mean, it's listen, this program you have, it's gonna be good. You wouldn't have any of those guys around anymore, but I don't know your situation. So I can't say for sure. So I wish we could talk, Boz. I don't know where you're from, but anyway, let's go to the next question. But one of the other questions you asked me was in terms of food, and excuse me, and well, just it's really interesting. It's always the same. Okay, so you want to avoid simple carbs like disaccharides and monosaccharides like glucose, sucrose, and stuff like that in refined conditions, like where you get them in the cakes and pies and candy and things like that. But not in their natural form. I mean, because think about it, a spinach leaf has glucose, so it's not like you can avoid getting these. Broccoli. I mean, so these monosaccharides do exist in everywhere. A lot of in most foods. So it's not. I'm not saying you have to get it, but you want to avoid any processed ones, of course. Yeah. Okay. Garlic helps. Raw garlic is always good. Pumpkin seeds, pomegranates, beets, carrots, all of those stuff. They've been used traditionally, right, for parasites. And there's something very interesting about papaya seeds. They are also. Whoops! I think that's going dead. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah. All right. Right. Verified. Okay, TikTok. I have to just do that thing. TikTok but pumpkin seeds, very interesting. Pumpkin seeds, actually, papaya seeds. Papaya seeds are amazing. I mean, in terms of protecting you from parasites and including malaria, including and so there are studies with um, papaya seeds. I think they had 26 people, and 23 of them with what they had were finding in their stool got cleared. Now that didn't get rid of everything because remember these guys live in your everywhere. All right, but I'm just saying they're very very good. So that would be one of the things, right? And then of course you want if you're also doing and this is for general health, you should also be taking digestive enzymes after you eat. Good healthy digestive enzymes after you eat. And and if you're over 35, 40, or you're really sick, you should also be looking at taking hydrochloric acid about 10 minutes before you eat. Yeah. All right. So there's a lot of things you can be doing, right? In terms of food, but we're going to get more into that on the parasite group. Okay. So here's one. Here's Amy. She said, I need help. I can now feel 2-foot long parasites down my leg and several in my thighs, knotted ones up behind my knees and on my neck. I can taste it, and they just spray like deep tracks and larvae that I can feel just wildly try to dig deep into my skin. This is insanity. My medical chart is blacklisted. They are padding my chart, backing each other to make this mental health issue. When in truth, a nurse practitioner didn't look at my medical history and prescribed albendazole to me. That then my entire body exploded. Hyperinfection. I realized I've had this for over 25 years, vague symptoms. They are affecting me in all my life. The doctors will not help me. I cannot believe I am in this situation. If you saw photos, you wouldn't believe they are turning their backs on me. They are letting me die. Denial by infectious disease depart over and over. And I have a family. I'm not crazy. I love this beautiful life. This isn't right. They are using legal ways to manipulate and go around me. Okay, so I would donate my time and so to you. You would do anything. I see. If I could take you in and treat you. Okay, so wow. Listen, I don't at all think you're crazy. And they when Morgellons, y'all remember when Morgellons? I don't know if you remember it or not, but there was a period. It's still happening, but we first started to see it back in when early 2000s. All right, mid 2000s, where people were seeing they had the kind of feeling like you did, but not long, not long like you described. But and actually they would come through the skin and they were blue and red, kind of yellowish. They look like synthetic material, like threads and stuff like that. I mean, crazy. But it comes through, and then so it was termed delusional parasitosis. Because if they can put a name on it, they can put it in the category, and then they can stick it up. So so now they're saying, well, it's not really delusional because we see it too. Yeah, you can see these things coming out. So what I believe, if you're telling me this, and I've had people listen. I've had I've worked with a lot of people, and yeah, what you're saying, I don't doubt for a moment. Okay. And what's going on in this world right now is not it's accelerated to such a point where I know it wasn't going on like this before. I know the past wasn't like this. It just wasn't. Now, when you're talking about a large, so let's take your situation. When you're talking about a really large one like that, and now you say you feel it, you don't see it. So I guess you feel, I don't know what you feel, but I know that and what you've seen. But in terms of parasites, when we think of parasites, the really long ones are the longest are the tapeworms, right? They can get up to 6 to 9 meters, which is what 20 to 30 feet. They can. They don't always. In humans, though, they can. because their heads are embedded into our intestinal wall. They lay eggs, and anyway, uh, and they usually exit the body through the feces, right? And they're, and what are, and it's part of, part of the body comes out. That's how they leave. The other worms that can be seen are some of the roundworms, like Ascaris can be seen. It's not as long; it can get up to 12 inches, though. Um, and they and again they exit through the intestines, through the bowels, and they can cause problems. They can cause bowel obstructions and stuff like that. Now these are extreme because usually you don't see the adults. I'm telling you, 95% of the people that never see adults. And then there's the hookworms, which are other ones, because they're not that big. They get up to like 2.5 to 5 centimeters, which is like 1 to 2 inches, right? So they don't get that big, but they're hookworms, and they exit through your skin, and they can come back in through your skin. So they're like weird. All right, so those are the big ones that we can see. So if you've got some big ones going on like that, so again, tapeworm, you always think of the medications would be the praziquantel, the albendazole, or mebendazole, and the nitazoxanide. Nitazoxanide, also called Alinea, right? For tapeworm, praziquantel is always considered the best, or the first one you go to, because it paralyzes them. They can't do anything, and then they can be eliminated. And then the albendazole and praziquantel, the other one, not on that, they can get the larval cysts, larval cysts that are in the brain and central nervous system and stuff like that, right? So, yeah, the pyranthal palmaway, but anyway, so I don't know what you have going on in there. You might have multiple kinds of things going on. Here's the thing: when you say take you in, we don't have. Excuse me. We don't have an inn. We don't have a live-in. We don't have a facility like that. I'm hoping to have one like that one day in Thailand, but I don't yet. And in the U.S., the one in Arizona, we don't have a live-in facility. It's a day. You come in the day and you go home at night. But in your situation, you need a really, Amy. What I would suggest is somehow, call one of the clinics like an Oasis Feeling and tell them, to get you need to get through to me, and we can, I don't know where you live or anything like that, but you got to get some medications. If nobody believes you and you're in trouble and you've got this kind of, it's this heavy, it's just you're that infected, you got to start getting some medications, and you can get them. They're available. You've got to be able to find ways of getting them. And I've taught, I've put it online, and too, I've put it out there. There's different Indian pharmacies and places like that. Or if you have to, don't move, but I mean, go on a vacation to Mexico, to Thailand, to India, to I don't know where else, Vietnam. There's a lot of countries where you can just go into a pharmacy and get these kinds of medications without a prescription. So, but I hear you. But it's not like it. But yeah, you could benefit too by some good, ozone and high doses of vitamin C. That would help you too as well, by cleaning out your colon. Remember, you got to change. You got to realize that the reason that these guys, or any organisms, or anything, or any imbalance in the microflora, is all due to the fact of what we eat, what we are giving them. If you have ants in your house, the reason you have ants in your house is because they found something to eat. If you have cockroaches in your house, they found something to eat. Anywhere you see an organism of any kind, it's there because it's eating. All organisms, they're doing two fundamental things in their lives. eating, which is exchange of energy, and making babies. And that's, that's the fundamental, very broad um, uh, understanding. But just by understanding that about organisms, just understand that, like, for example, if I have a dysbiosis, which I do, which we all do, we have a dysbiosis. That means I still have all the original organisms that should be there, except that there's only a little of these and a lot of these. Why? Because of the way I'm eating. And if I change the way I'm eating, they'll go like this, right? Because they are surviving. So whatever is in me is there because I'm feeding it. So again, eating healthy, fasting, cleansing, colon hydrotherapy, eat food that is real, that grew out of the earth, that has not been modified in any way. Yeah. And, we'll go on the diet another time, but that's it. And so, Amy, I'd love to help you. Go call the clinics and see if and let's get together that way. And I'll guide you to somewhere. I don't know where you live either. Okay, here's Tricia. Okay, I want to do parasite heavy metals with my I can't find a doctor where I live to help me. I have many issues that need to be addressed. Most recently, after 19 after the okay, the Gohok Sit Gohok Sit it's really Gohok in Thai means lie, and Sit means 19. So it's not COVID-19; it was Gohok. So they called it COVID Sit but I said no, it's not COVID Sit it's Gohok Sit Anyway, so after recent serious issues after the shot 2 years ago, so you had the shot. I want desperately to be a good organic eating ritual, as well as first fast. I want to be led by a doctor with a strict protocol. Well, Tricia, yes, yeah, you got the shots. Okay, so there are some really important things you can do for that. Now, the whole thing about the shots is it's so more complicated than I ever imagined initially, but because it wasn't just one thing. It wasn't just mRNA and spike protein. There's also, they're not finding any mRNA and spike protein, and they're just finding nanobots and graphene oxide. So yeah, but there are protocols to dissolve spike protein, such as nattokinase. Bromelain can do it, and lumbrokinase. Nattokinase is probably the best. And but anyway, there's ways of dealing with the problems with that. But the other one is your doing a parasite cleanse. Okay. Now, heavy metals. The thing about heavy metals is to understand is that the problem is that we were all, I stopped testing people for heavy metals probably back in 2000. No, actually, I did even when I moved to Arizona, I was still doing it for a while, but I kept seeing that I never found anyone who didn't have a heavy metal burden problem, right? So it's like, I was thinking, well, why do this test, which costs them money, when they could save the money for treatment? So anyway, so chelation, you got to for heavy metals. Why are heavy metals a problem? Heavy metals are metals. These are metals that don't have any function in our body. It's not like zinc and magnesium and copper and iron, selenium. All these are required nutrients. But we're talking about lead, mercury, arsenic, tin, thallium, uranium, thorium. I mean, it's bizarre. All these things that are in our bodies, they don't have no function. But however, they are in terms of their um, affinity, their strength to grab on and hold is stronger. And so, for example, you may know that selenium for glutathione uh, peroxidase, glutathione S transferase um, in our cytoplasm of our cell, cytoplasm of our cells requires selenium to. Remember, minerals are the batteries of enzymes. They're how enzymes. They're what bring in the electrical, the movement. It's like plugging it in. You want an enzyme to work, you got to plug it in, and that's how you plug it in. It's with minerals. So you could have everything, beautiful enzymes, beautiful phytonutrients and everything, and if you don't have the mineral, it won't work. So that's how important minerals are. So you got selenium in there. It's making that work, just like selenium makes your thyroid when it's taking off T4 and turning it into T3. So anyway, selenium. So lead's going by, and it stronger than a selenium. It displaces it, and it's there. Now what? That enzyme's shut off. So you shut off enough enzymes in enough systems, and you got problems. And then some have a higher predilection for certain, like for example, mercury in the brain, central nervous system, right? So they go to different places, but that's what heavy metals are. And they affect our immune system. They affect everything. So the way to deal with them is something called chelation. The chelation, I'm sure you've heard of it, but the word chele comes from the Greek word meaning claw or crab. And that's basically what it does. So back in the 50s, I think it was, there was people with lead toxicity, because remember, there used to be a lot of lead in paint, and there was a lot of lead toxicity going on in urban centers. And they found that, it was causing severe problems in people, severe. And so they came up with this synthetic amino acid that is non-metabolizable, which means what? Which means that if you get it in you, your body can't metabolize it, so it's going to come out, which is kind of cool. And it's small. So it's called EDTA, which is ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. Ethylene diamine tetra for acetic acid, which would be acetate. So it's in the acetic acid means acetate with a hydrogen. Okay, so it's 4 acetates, which is a negative charge. And here's that metal, mercury or lead or whatever. It's in there, and it's got a positive charge. So it grabbed it. That's chelation. Okay, chele, grab it, and pulls it out. So it was FDA approved and was used for lead toxicity. And then they started to find that people were getting other benefits, and it all snowballed, it all went up, and then finally, I think it was when did they have they finally did a clinical trial in Florida, looking at the potential benefit of chelation on cardiac problems. Anyway, so it's gone up from there. Now, there's another kind of chelate. Now, by the way, so if you looked at EDTA and you said, all right, is it going to get all the metals? No, it's got an order of affinity, right? So, for example, it likes iron. Well, we need iron. But if it grabs an iron and then it sees a mercury, it drops that iron and grabs that mercury, right? Okay, so in other words, that's how it goes. So there's an affinity. You can look at the different affinities, number 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's down here and it's going to work its way up. So what you want to do is, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to do they do pre-provocative and post-provocative testing. That is, they do a heavy metal test of your blood or urine. It should be urine, without having had anything to provoke it. And they just want to see if there's any in there, if there's any heavy metals, because that would tell them what's going on currently, what you're being exposed to right now. Why? Because once you get exposed to a heavy metal, it's in your blood, it's gone. It's going to find an enzyme, it's going to be gone. It won't be in your blood, so it won't be in your urine, because your urine is filtered blood. So it's not going to be there. It's going to be in there. So now the provoked are, you take EDTA, you take DMSA, you take DMPS, you take something like that. Then you check about an hour later or whatever, and next time you pee, and you'll find it'll be pulling stuff out because it starts to pull them. That's provoked. So they do pre and post, but you don't have to. You just say, "Look, you got it. You're living on this planet. Okay, you got it. All right." So now, so what I look at is so a good combination is EDTA. You can get oral EDTA and or suppository, and it's on its affinity. It's going to get lead better than it gets mercury. It's still going to get them, but it's going to get them better. Whereas DMSA, which is another one, is going to get what do you call it? It gets mercury first. It's got a different affinity list. So if you're taking both, you've got a really, kind of a good chance of getting all of them eventually. All right. So anyway, so and the DMSA is good orally too. Dimercaptosuccinic acid is what it is. And so what it's so only about 20% of an oral dose of DMSA is absorbed into the blood. The rest goes through. So it's going to chelate a bunch of stuff in your gut. Kind of good. You got some parasites in there with any positively like cationic membranes, which they will. It's going to grab it. But anyway, so about 20% gets into your blood. Of that, about 95% of it is bound to albumin, which is one of the purposes of albumin, which is a protein produced by our liver and is I might have mentioned this before. One of the most essential parts to being alive, healthy. Albumin is does so many things, but one thing it does is it escorts both substances that we produce in our body, such as proteins and other kinds of hormones and stuff, and it also escorts exogenously introduced substances such as this. Escorts. There are other things that escort, but that's probably one of the main ones. Anyway, so if you look at dimercaptosuccinic acid, you're going to see it's got these sulfhydryl groups, which allows it to grab. Again, it's like to grab positively charged things. So really safe to take, and they were looking at different agents, and they actually found that they had the best urinary excretion. In other words, that got rid of it, of the mercury from compared to the other ones. The best, right? And it also, they found that it was the best at removing mercury from the blood, liver, brain, spleen, lungs, intestines, skeleton. It get it really good at that. So it likes mercury. It gets other ones too. So when the mercury's gone, it's going to get other things, right? But it'll get arsenic, it'll get aluminum, it'll get all those things, right? So anyway, the dosage is anywhere from 10 to 30 milligrams per kilogram. So if you got to think in terms of kilograms. So if you're American, that's going to be like, well, if you're from any other country, you think in terms of kilograms. But in America, let's say you're 120. Right? So if you're 120, that's about 50 kilos, about. So, right, 2.2 pounds to 1 kilo. So that's 50 kilos. So 50 kilos times, let's say, so 10, that would be 500 milligrams, right? Or if it was times 30, that would be 1,500 milligrams. Per day in 2 or 3 divided doses for 3 days on and then 11 days off. 3 days on and 11 days off. And then they would repeat this like 8 times. This was kind of the protocols they were doing in these studies. The other protocols that they've done with the DMSA, and the reason, because take it orally and it's great, it's easy, was 500 milligrams a day, in like two divided doses, maybe 250 and 250, every other day for about 5 weeks. Every other day for about 5 weeks. And then the other thing is, you can either look at this as maintenance because we're always being exposed, or you can do it. I would do it for myself. I would do it this way. I would take 500 milligrams of DMSA at night before bed, maybe 3 days a week. Why before bed? Because while the metals are moving around, if it was during the day, maybe I might feel like a little bit not too well. I'll be sleeping, so it's okay. And in the morning, you will pee out all these metals, and you can take maybe 2 days a week, 3 days a week. Take some oral disodium EDTA or calcium EDTA. Yeah, and then you're going to pretty much cover it all. But and then just as a maintenance, maybe 500 milligrams of DMSA twice a week before bed, and once you've gone through it. And then here's the other thing. Now, since we've been what's really nice, we live in a world where people they care about us, so much that that even they want to make sure that even while we're sleeping, that we're getting the things that we just hard to get, like aluminum and barium and things like that. So what they've done for us, and is they don't want to disturb us while we're sleeping. They're just spraying in the air, in the airplanes, and it's these nano-sized aluminum and stuff. So, they're extremely thoughtful and caring, and yeah. So anyway, so now that we've got nano-sized stuff in us, wow, is this going to work? And that's a very good question. So this is where things like zeolite come in. We've got to be taking zeolite as well, right? Because we want to get down to those sides of things. We also want to be using, chlorella and spirulina and those kind of things for their chelating effect, because their chelating. Vitamin C, the ascorbate, chelate. So a lot of other things to chelate, because we're now talking about not only being exposed probably at the micron levels like we're used to. Now we're getting the nano-sized. Yeah, I mean, the degree to which these people care about us is just like, unfathomable. And then they keep coming up with new ways of expressing their concern. I wonder what they're concerned. Oh, they're concerned that we're still alive. That's what it is. Yeah, they are concerned about that. Anyway, but that's it. I wanted to talk to you about chelation. So we should all be taking some sort of chelating. It's very, very important. Okay, very, very important. Well, we still got some time. Okay, great. Yeah, we got some time. Yeah, good. Okay, good. All right, so yeah, so anyway, back to you, Tricia. You had those shots, you had and you want to do all these cleanses. It's very good. And well, I don't know where you live or anything like that, and you can't find a doctor. They're hard to find, I know. Got to join the group, because we'll be getting more. We're going to get more into it. I want to turn these groups also into like group consultations. If you're not worried about, your personal information. I mean, you don't have to. We don't have to be personal. I mean, for me to tell you that I had this condition or whatever doesn't bother me. But some people are very. It does bother them. So if you are, as I said, you can keep on the Zoom. You don't show your face. You have a pseudonym, and call yourself Rocky or Rockette. and uh, you can even get one of those things where it's a different voice or whatever. But anyway, so that's not it. The point is, we can. It's a way to do it because I couldn't possibly consult with everybody because there's way too many people that are having problems. Okay, so and I'd love to help you, Tricia, and I will help you. So let's do it that way, okay? Okay, this is NIPS. I have breast CFCs, no chemo radiation. Great. On a plant-based diet, lifestyle modification, and meditation. Had rashes on both my hands, forearm, which are flaky and itchy. Can't sleep well at night because of the itch. Was given itraconazole capsules 2 times a day, miconazole cream, and sertrazine by a dermatologist, but the itching continues. Would you help? Could you help me? Yeah. So, so you from detoxification, you can get a rash because you keep in mind that we have um, several organ systems that are designed to eliminate toxins. Of course, our bowels and our kidneys, our lungs, and our skin, big one. And the skin comes out through your sweat and all that, but it's a way of excreting. Okay, and it's also the skin is also for absorb. That's the other thing we also absorb through there as well. Um, and so, of course, those things coming out will definitely can cause rashes and things like that. And especially if you have had in your life like eczema or any other kind of skin condition, it'll even make it worse for sure, and or come out sooner or whatever. And one of the things is you got to just help. You don't want that to stop. So you can take Epsom salt baths. You can take hydrogen peroxide baths. You get 35% food grade hydrogen peroxide, and you put about a cup in a bathtub full of water and soak in it. You just do that and Epsom salt and stuff like that, and just get this stuff out, help it come out. And because metals coming out, all these things coming out are going to cause problems in the skin. And then eat healthy, and I don't use or recommend creams and things to cover it. A moisturizing cream. What a moisturizing cream is it's basically blocking your body's ability to eliminate its water fluid, and so it stays moist. So that's what it's doing. But the problem is that most of these creams and things that people put on their bodies are not, you don't really want them. They're not that healthy. So if you can find like maybe virgin coconut oil would be good and things like that. And the other thing you can use to clean up is clays. Different kinds of clays can be used to help get this out. You want to get it out of your body, right? And just understand that once your skin stops excreting these toxins because you've gotten rid of most of them, then you're done. So it's not like it's a lifelong journey of having the skin manifestations. But if you have those, I'd say you need to do colon hydrotherapy. Maybe you're not doing enough colonics. Maybe you've got other organs of elimination, so use those. Exercise, move around so that you're breathing a lot. You're exhaling a lot, right? And moving around, getting your muscle, get things moving, and then get your strength up. And be lots of fluid, so you're peeing all the time, and get some colon hydrotherapy and get some good colon cleanses too as well. So it's not, because it sounds like it might be relying too much on the skin. Yeah. Anyway, so here we go. Now, my 82-year-old mom with breast CFCs, this is Sally, has been taking 24 milligrams of Ivermectin and mebendazole since February 7th. Should she be 4 weeks on and 1 off, 4 days, 3 days off? Is this safe? For how long? What blood tests? Okay. Yeah. So, and again, this is, Liver is the blood test. All right. If the liver enzymes are going up, now they can go up, they'll come down. So should she be on 3 weeks on and 1 week off, or whatever, or 2 weeks off, or 4 weeks? Yeah. So that would be a good way to look. It's just looking at the liver enzymes. And if they go, that's what happens, and why it's not that it's damaging. What it means is that if you're taking multiple different medications at one time, and supplements that require liver for elimination, then it's going to be overworked. It's just what happens, and you get enzymes. So again, liver enzymes right there. Like I said, this is Liat, and this is 2017. I had breast CFCs, surgery, and radiation. In 2021, I had a recurrence in the same area. That CFC area is very stiff and distorted. It's an estrogen CFC, and it's getting out of the breast area. How can I decrease my estrogen? How can I stop the CFC from getting worse in that way? Okay, so anyway, Leah, I don't know if you've done this, but you've got to do your biological. You've got to get to a good biological dentist. You've got to find out what's going on in the mouth. The mouth is not only if we have root canals and if you have extractions, but just from the microflora in our mouth, the oral microbiome are directly related to CFC production. So that's one. You got to do that. You got to be cleansing also, which is, you do a juice cleanse for a period of time. Juice cleanse means you're just drinking fresh juices. You're not eating solid food for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever you can. You're doing colon hydrotherapy and or enemas daily. But the hydrocolonics would be 1 or 2 a week. But you got to be cleaning out everything. You got to get rid of the reasons. Now, estrogens are part of the physiology of breasts. So it's not really odd or unusual that these chronically fermenting cells are also having, the estrogen has an effect on them. So does prolactin. Prolactin is a hormone made by the pituitary gland, and it's probably most active when women are pregnant, and it's for the helping with the milk coming out. So there are prolactin receptors too. That's not often looked at by conventional oncologists. But what do? Soy, and then soy, and then soy. Soy is like, you could not have a better medicine. Okay, estrogen receptors are alpha and beta. The alpha ones make things grow. When the beta ones get stimulated, they make things shrink. What stimulates the beta? The estriol of all your estrogens, the estriol, and soy isoflavones like genistein and diazine and equal, and they stimulate beta, and that makes things shrink, right? And then flax. Flax not only stimulates beta, but it downregulates your ability to produce alpha. So you have less alpha, ER alpha receptors. So yes. So that's what you do. And that way you don't want to stop producing estrogen, because then you're not going to be healthy, because you want to have balanced hormones. You need to have your hormones balanced, not stop. Because when you stop, you go into either menopause, or if you're a man, you go into andropause, where your body starts to shrivel up, become fragile, and you become senile. And so you don't want that. What you want is balance your hormones and make sure that you're getting nutritionally that which will bind to the estrogen receptor beta. That's what you want. And you can do that. Soy in all of its forms. non-GMO soy. Green tea also, but it's not as much as soy. But this is Lisa. This is our rubbery topical tumors on the breast CFCs. Are rubbery topical tumors on the breast CFCs or cysts? They have clear, sticky fluid. Also, when they get older, they develop callus-like skin that one can remove. Will chlorine dioxide eradicate these cysts? Is it safe procedure? The cysts do get larger. Two, please advise my direction as my breast tissue underneath is necrotic. Yeah, it does not sound like CFCs at all. When there are CFCs, usually in like that are there, it's hard, firm, and if it's on the, and a lot of times I'll see after a woman's had a mastectomy, and we'll get this like dermal, it's in the dermis, implants of real hard like nodules, but not the way you're describing with the fluid coming out and all that. That sounds more like a cyst, but with a sticky fluid that comes out. So that sounds like chlorine dioxide. Well, yeah, whatever that is, that chlorine dioxide is going to help. But so will iodine, painting on Lugol's iodine, 2% or 5%, painting it on a lot. Don't paint the iodine on an open wound because it'll burn. But around it you can, and just get absorbed in. Hydrogen peroxide, 3 to 6%, food grade. A lot of things that would kill parasites if that's what it is. Sounds like it could be, but I mean, it's just I having a hard time imagining what's going on, because I don't know if this is one small spot on one breast, or is it diffuse over both breasts, or diffuse over one breast. So, and your skin's necrotic underneath it. So, the parasite idea is, yeah. If you can find a practitioner like a naturopath or a any non-MD, because they won't do it, but who's good at doing electrodermal screening, acupuncture meridian, which is what Dr. Simon Yu does, and many other people have been trained by him. But there's also there are different kinds of equipment and machines. Anyway, the reason I'm saying is that they are more they're able to find and identify problems that they're in the modern medical world. There's no way to do it. There's no tools. There's no blood tests. There's no imaging things. There's no way to do it. So that's why the electrodermal screening can be so important. EDS, it's called. How weird. What was that? That was did TikTok make that weird noise? I guess so. All right. So now prostate. Anyway, Lisa, you gotta let me know what those were. I mean, has anyone gotten a sample of the sticky liquid out and looked at it under a microscope? You can do that. Yeah. Anyway, the chlorine dioxide would be good, but iodine, great. Lugol's with the iodide in it, and peroxides and ozone. You can ozonate in olive oil. You can just use ozone. You can bag ozone. Yeah, any oxidizing agent, anything that's going to oxidize and eliminate, which is nature's way of doing things, right? Now, the where is it? Hold on. Where is it? What? One second. Where is it? Mm-hmm. One moment. Sorry, I can't find the water. Oh well. Guess I'll have to not drink water for a while. Oh, gosh. Anyway, koto. Koto. All right, so make sure everybody here. So, okay. Now, so the next question is on prostate CFCs. And this is Larry. It says, I'm desperate, down and out, and in agony with left groin pain and leg pain, right shoulder. Are these blocked lymph nodes with tumors? My last PSA was in the mid-20s and climbing. I don't want to resume Zolodex. Hardly eating anything. Lemon water and fruit, coconut water, herb teas. Should I attempt to gently bounce it out on the rebounder? Do I add a little less sea salt to water? Walking is very painful. Energy low. Larry, I don't know if you've done your biological dentistry. You know, when I hope you did. And if you didn't do it, you got to go to a biological dentist. You got to make sure there's nothing going on with your teeth. You also got to look at your, and everyone has, whatever you have to look at the mouth. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Now, and in terms of, you know, like the right shoulder, you know, we look at, you know, the dental meridians, right? Okay. So, you know, the second molar is the right shoulder and large intestines, liver, and gallbladder. Second molar. Right, it's right near your wisdom. Before that, right before that, yeah. And but the groin is your incisors, so there's different things going on for that. So you've got, okay, so whatever. So in other words, your mouth, we've got to take care of the mouth. It's you can't go further without knowing that you went to a real biological dentist. They did a 3D cone beam CT, and they even had a swish test where they looked for your microflora. I mean, to see your oral flora to see what you have. And they were able to ascertain whether or not you had cavitations and or root canals and or, you know, periodontal conditions or what. So you got to know those things, and you've got to deal with them, because they 80, 90, maybe even 100% of conditions that either they cause systemic problems. So now, you know, and then, you know, the stomach. Yeah, so you got a lot of stuff going. You know, Larry, what you need to do is a cleanse. You don't want, you said you're not hungry. You need to do a juice cleanse. You need to do all that. I don't know your albumin. I don't know your blood test. I don't know your weight. I don't know your condition. It's really impossible for me to advise you to do anything unless I had all that information. But assuming that your albumin is okay, and assuming that you're not extremely, you're not cachectic, and then you could do a juice cleanse, colonics, right? And if you remember, okay, so, but the pain in the groin and all that sort of thing sounds like a lymph node. It sounds like it would be really helpful for you to get find a certified lymphatic therapist and let them do ELT, which is electrodermal, um, ELT, electrolymphatic therapy. ELT, electrolymphatic therapy. There's no electricity on you. It's just over like this, and it's got these argon krypton lamps. Moves it along. It's very, very good. Yeah, and also, you're going to do the rebounding, but it sounds like it's hard to walk. I don't know how you do the rebounding, but that's it. And movements, there's different movements you can start doing to get your lymphatics moving, right? Like I was talking about the sit to stands. You can do those. You can do squats without, not be holding a weight. You can just do squats. Just start but on a regular throughout the day basis, so you get things moving. And then again, if you've gotten rid of all that, do the cleanse, colonics, the juice feast, and then you've got to start getting some soy in your life, right? Now, there was, there was a really amazing study in 2023. It actually was at the university, the Department of Urology in Brussels, and they looked at the use of soy isoflavones in the treatment of prostate CFCs. And it's weird, the cameras are up there, and I got to not look. Look at the cameras. Yeah, okay. But anyway, so 2023. So we know that genistein and diadzine are the soy isoflavones that bind to the beta receptor. But what was never really studied that much was the equal, which is a third one of the soy isoflavones. And equal, if you look at it, its molecular structure, it looks a lot like estrogen. And so it, like the other ones, binds to the beta receptor. But the equal actually turns out to be more potent than the other two. And so, by the way, not just prostate. Okay, what they're finding is that these isoflavones have positive effects on different CFCs, such as breast, of course, gastrointestinal, which is what? Esophagus, stomach, large intestine, colon, and urogenital. Urogenital, what are we talking about? Urogenital. We're talking about ovaries. We're talking about uterus. We're talking about kidneys. We're talking about bladder. And we're talking about prostate, testicular. So kind of a lot, all right, and it has a very positive effect is by these things, and they by multiple pathways. They regulate the cell cycle. They increase apoptosis. They block angiogenesis. They block metastasis. They do all these things, right? All right. So anyway, and there's also a clear link between the estrogen receptor beta, which is the one we want, right? Because it shrinks, but there's like a link between it and the androgen receptor, right? Because there's some androgen receptor can have an effect on prostate, right? So the androgen sensitive prostate CFCs. So they found that they could have a lower dose, and if they weren't androgen, if they were androgen independent, then they still had a good effect, but at higher doses. So, yeah. Now, one of the interesting things that it did is that it downregulates androgen receptor production. So there's less androgen receptors, right? It's very amazing. But the other thing that Equal did, remember, is one of the isoflavones. It has the unique ability, I've never heard of anything else, of blocking DHT. dehydrotestosterone. So remember that when testosterone becomes dehydrotestosterone, is more potent. However, that's the one that's responsible for prostate enlargement and for male pattern baldness. Okay, what? And there's really nothing else that grabs it or blocks it. So, with the way they treat those things, they try to give you aromatase inhibitors to prevent converting. Anyway, so but this is the only thing that actually grabs the DHT and prevents it from doing its thing. That's pretty cool. Okay, that's the equal in soy. All right. So in the studies, they were looking at anywhere from 100 to 500 milligrams per kilogram. This is of genistein per day. They were looking this with different kinds of animals, right? And so if you were to do 500 milligrams, okay, let's say you were 70, a 70 kilogram person is kind of a average size male, and they were to do 500 milligrams. We're only talking about 30. That turns out to be 35 grams of soy, which is a half a cup, a half to 3/4 of a cup. And the amount of amino acids and healthy things in there is the same as 4 to 5 ounces of flesh, like steak or fish or a big chicken breast or pork chop or whatever. But they come with like 5 to 10 grams of fat, but the soy doesn't. Anyway, amazing. You got to get that. Breast, your genital, everyone. Well, me, you, everybody. Okay. Right. Now, there's another thing I want you to keep in mind. So anyway, that's what you got to do. All right. Please remember that. Okay. And you got to get moving and walking and stuff like that. You need to get a certified lymphatic therapist. Very, very important. Okay. Movement. Deep breathing. Okay, with your abdomen, right? You're going to do a diaphragmatic. Every time you go in, it squeezes the lymphatic, one of the main lymphatic vessels that dumps into your superior vena cava, and into your subclavian is called cisterna chyli, and that gets with breathing. So doing that, laughing does the same thing. It goes. You want to get that right. You want to get your lymph moving. And if it hurts to walk, maybe it's the pressure. You could get a bicycle, even a stationary one. But you want to, and you can use. You want to get your strength up. So a lot of things we got to be doing. Now, here's Jennifer. She says, my husband had a CT for lower abdominal pain, which was worked up by a urologist and was unremarkable except for calcifications on the prostate. He's 48 years old, eats well, organic, non-GMO, but does eat meat. You mean he's not eating the essence of animals, he's eating their corpse, right? Okay. Because meat, remember, folks, meat means essence, right? The meat of the subject. Meat, the coconut. So we don't consider the decayed muscles of a deceased animal as being their essence. So that's just what we don't call meat. So he's eating dead animals. He exercises every day and takes organic supplements. Leaks a little bit of urine after he empties his bladder. He had an ultrasound, which was unremarkable. No ejaculation issues. Took Hytrin, but discontinued because he hates medications. Is there anything to remove the calcifications? He's getting ready to do parasite cleanse because it showed a cyst on his liver and kidney. Good. Sure. Okay, very good, Jennifer. So for sure, he's got to do those cleanses for sure. The calcifications on his prostate are, calcifications get in there because, there are calcium producing nano-sized bacteria. But there are also calcium comes to alkalinize. It's an alkalinizing mineral. It'll alkalinize there. It'll also be attracted to things that are halogens like fluoride, chloride, bromide that are there. As I was our pineal gland, we get fluoride accumulates and then calcium fluoride. Um, but again, it's you'll get a calcium, you'll get calcified areas where there's tissue death, or just before the tissue dies, it's very acidic and the calcium's coming there to alkalinize it. So anyway, and he's eating. Okay, so doing a lot of good things. Okay, but there is a study that would be worth thinking about. Okay, and it's only one of many. But okay, but in 2018, uh, in the Asian Pacific Journal of Cancer, um, they looked at the prostate CFC incidents, and it was a cross-national ecological analysis of 172 countries. Okay, 2018, 172 countries. All right, and they wanted to look at the incidence as it correlated to total amount of, again, they use that word meat, of flesh intake, animal flesh intake. What their results showed that from 172 countries, that the total flesh intake was strongly and significantly associated with the incident rate of prostate CFCs globally and regionally. Worldwide total flesh intake is a major predictor of prostate CFCs, regardless of other influence like aging, GDP, obesity, and urbanization. GDP, gross domestic product. Why would that? Because it turns out that the wealthier a country is, the more they wind up getting prostate CFCs. I think we're going the other way now, so we won't be up there. Our GDP is going down, so hang in there. So what their results showed was that the meat consumption, animal flesh consumption, instead of GDP, may be a determinant of the regional variation. So when they look at the regional variations, they used to think, well, it was because of. Can you believe this? I'm beautiful, wonderful Phuket, and they're building next door because we don't have enough apartments. So here I am across the street from the ocean. It was beautiful, quiet when I moved here, and now I get to listen to this for about a year. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, so in other words, we used to think that it was the GDP. In other words, the wealth of regions in the world. That's why there was a higher incidence of prostate CFCs. We're now seeing that it's actually meat consumption, animal flesh consumption, and the carcinogens that are in there are unbelievable. That are in flesh. I mean, if you guys, I'm going to do the definitive talk about this, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are really emotionally attached to it. But there's heterocyclic amines, there's the dimethyl quinoxylines, the trimethylimidazoles, the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and the N-nitrosyl compounds, and what else? Carcinogenic N-nitrosyl compounds, formation of cytotoxic, genotoxic aldehydes, and lipoperoxidase. Yeah, I mean, anyway. They found out that eating animals can cause metabolic syndrome, and it's just. So anyway, one of the points I wanted to make about this was they talked about two things: it being related to gross domestic product, in other words, GDP, which is the wealth of a nation. But they also looked at another thing, and it's kind of strange. It's called the Human Development Index, HDI, and it's very interesting. It was positively correlated with the prostate CFCs. Now, when they talk about the HDI, the Human Development Index, there's three aspects to it, okay, which is kind of strange. One is a long and healthy life. Number two is knowledge, and a third is a decent standard of living. So those three things come up with a what they call the Human Development Index. The details of those are not worth reading, but anyway, obviously in this case it would not be related to the first part of the HDI, which is the long and healthy life, because it turns out that um, all these other things are not. You don't wind up getting a long and healthy life. So that's that part of it's not it. But that's what the HDI means. However, the other two are very important: the knowledge and the decent standard of living is what they're calling it. Now, knowledge. When they say knowledge, what they're talking about in this context, what they're talking about is knowledge of um, how to survive in this world, how to program computers, how to talk on the phone, how to how to dress, how to uh, whatever you're how to get along in the artificial world. Okay, that's what the knowledge is based on. So it's based on that kind of information, not necessarily the knowledge of physiology, biology, psychology, the knowledge of spiritual, philosophical knowledge of nature. None of that, but it's how to get along in this artificial world. Okay, because that will determine how high you advance in your specific profession, right? And then a decent standard of living, which means that you're making enough money. So anyway, so if you're high in HDL, here's the part that was very interesting, is that the I got to say this. Okay, there is a positive correlation between the HDI and prostate. So the better you get along in this world, the better you are at the artificial world, and the more knowledge you have about it, the higher your incidence. There's a positive correlation between alcohol consumption and prostate. There's a negative correlation between smoking and prostate. So smoking, the more you smoke, the less prostate you have. Prostate CFC. It's very weird, right? So that's why statistics and data stuff is really hard to do, really hard to figure out. But what did I tell you here? Uh, yeah. Anyway, I just thought that was pretty interesting. Okay. Um, yeah. Okay. So what I'd say to you, uh, Jennifer, is that the cow he needs to cleanse. You've got to check his mouth. It's always the same thing. You got to go to a biological dentist. You got to make sure that we've talked about that before. I've done on my website and YouTube. I think you can find the podcasts I did with Dr. Emma Brahmayan on biological dentistry. You got it, and the relationship between that and our between the oral microbiome and different unbelievable CFCs it's incredibly high. Okay, so you got to do that. You got to clean out. He's ejaculating 21 times a month. Okay, minimum. All right, that's great. And moving around a lot. Moving around a lot. I would stop if I were him. I'd stop eating animals. I'd eat a lot of soy. Make sure you're alkaline so that the calcium doesn't have to go into the prostate. How do you get alkaline? By eating vegetables, drinking vegetables, because vegetables have minerals in them. They've got all kinds of minerals. They've got calcium, magnesium, all that stuff. And that stuff goes into the tissues and alkalinizes them. Whereas it's not eating something alkaline. Because a lemon, remember, is basically acidic. It's got citric acid. However, it'll make you alkaline. So it's alkalinizing because it's got the minerals, right? And that's why calcium goes in at the end, because it's a mineral and it's trying to alkalinize the tissue. And it winds up forming a salt and getting stuck. All right. So now, let's get on here. So Simon, what would you recommend for a patient with stomach CFCs? Well, you're going to look again at the mouth, right? So remember that the Upper first and second molars and the lower premolars are stomach. Okay, so, but that's if they have root canals, or you got to look at that. You got to look at the whole mouth. You got to go to a biological dentist. Okay. You also got to remember that the that noise, unbelievable. Uh, wow. The pro here. Let me make sure I got this here. You guys can hear me. Okay. So pro-inflammatory oral microbe. The oral microbes and their potential cause of gastric CFC is incredibly direct. So anyway, okay. So streptococcus, and another one called Corynebacterium, which are found in the saliva a lot with people with gastric CFCs. Okay. Now, I want you to all keep in mind that we swallow anywhere between 1 and 1.5 liters of saliva per day. One of the most important things you can do for oral and systemic health is several times a day, and especially after eating, just go and get water, put a little bit of salt in it, and rinse, swish, 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 and spit. Swish, 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 and spit, because that swishing gets up underneath the gums and you clean things out. And then you brush twice a day. And then also swish, 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 and spit, and then gargle and spit. Okay. Several times a day. Do that to keep, because it goes up underneath, because you want to get that, you want to keep those. See, what happens is these bacteria and these microorganisms, they produce a biofilm, then you get what's called plaque, right? And it goes up in, and you can wind up with periodontal conditions and lose your teeth and all sorts of things. Okay, so, but anyway, it turns out that strep of all the different organisms in the mouth, the one that actually protects against against the other ones producing CFCs is the strep, and we've got lots of strep. In fact, it's like the most common. That's why, you know, when they do a throat swab and they go, you got a strep throat, we're gonna kill it. Well, wait, that's like the most common microorganism in our mouths. Everybody's got strep. So what are they talking about? We'll you all know. I hope you all know by now that you don't catch conditions and then you're trying to get rid of it. You don't think that, right? You don't believe in the germ theory. All right. But anyway, so there's strep aeruginosus, peptostrepto, and fusobacterium. Those are all related to the CFCs. Now, the fusobacterium nucleatum and the P. gingivalis are really related to colon CFCs, gastric CFCs, and many other CFCs. And in fact, what happened was, when we look at skulls of humans more than 10,000 years ago, they had all their teeth. Around 10,000 years ago, when we started planting and raising grains and stuff, we saw a change in the microflora. How do we know that? Because the plaque that gets in there is, when it gets calcified and it's in there, and you have really good. It's probably one of the best fossil records we have, and we can see that the microbiome changed at about 10,000 years ago. Then it changed again for the worse about 1850 with the Industrial Revolution, and we started to process foods, and we got processed flour and stuff like that, and that's when it really changed. And now all the microorganisms that live in our oral are, like, a lot of them are just really cause problems. And about 26% of our entire microflora that of our whole body in and out are in our mouth, and 29% are in the rest of the GI tract. And what is supposed to stop them is the pH of the stomach and the bile acids, and it does, except that the pH of our stomach is not as good anymore. So if you're drinking alkaline water, you're ruining that. All right. But so, and we know that there are these organisms are specifically related to rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune situations that they call autoimmune. With breast CFCs, there's a certain kind of micro flora that's different than colon CFCs, that's different than ovarian CFCs. So all of these microorganisms that are in our mouths and in our GI tract are directly related. So that's why, for example, if you look at ulcerative colitis, you can do a fecal transplant of getting different microorganisms and it'll go away. That's how important these things are, these microorganisms. And they're not, and remember the degree to which the type of dysbiosis you have. Dysbiosis means that it's unbalanced in terms of providing health, because we all have all of these microorganisms in us, but we might just have a few of these and a lot of these because we're eating whatever we're eating. And if we were to change it, we would come back to that. And if we had a perfect healthy microbiome here and here, we would have no problems of ill health at all. It really comes down to that. It's really that. Yeah. So, but you got to realize that there's a lot of microorganisms there, right? Okay, so in 1 milliliter of human saliva, you have about 100 million microorganisms, right? So just that's a lot, right? 1 cc, 1 milliliter of your saliva, you have 100 million organisms. So you don't want to be swallowing unhealthy ones. So I'm saying rinse and spit a few times a day. You're going to still swallow at least a liter a day. But you want to keep your healthy. And why are they there? Because they're eating, right? Anything anywhere it's eating. So when we went to, and it's basically when we went to cooked starches, cooked carbs, cooked starches, cooked carbs, cooked starches. Okay. What was really interesting is when that happened 10,000 years ago in areas like Japan, Korea, Thailand, Vietnam, with rice rather than wheat and potatoes, it didn't happen. But that was rice before it was 1850 when they started to take off the hull, and now you wind up with white rice. That's different than the original rice, right? But that's just very interesting, right? So, anyway, so you get the biofilm of under there, and then it turns into plaque, and that gets stuck. That's there. And keep in mind that there are like several different habitats in our mouth. There's the tonsils, there's the teeth, because there's the teeth, and the teeth are the only surface in the body that's not exfoliating and changing. Teeth are not. And then you got the tongue, cheeks, the gingiva, and then the palate. So you got different areas with all kinds of different organisms, right? And then tonsils, of course. So it's actually the second most diverse of diverse numbers and types of organisms. So you not only have funguses, we have a lot of funguses in our mouth. We have a lot of protozoa, which are parasites. Can be parasites, protozoa, single cell organisms, and we have bacteria, and we also have something called archaea, which are very close to bacteria. Yeah, so we have a lot, and each of those are just so quite a bit going on in our mouths. All right, and they're very much associated with CFCs, right? So Enterococcus fecalis, F. nucleatum, and P. gingivalis are the big bad guys. Okay, but as I said, of the commensals, remember, of the ones that are in there and not doing any harm, they were looking at Streptococcus, Neisseria, and Haemophilus. They were looking at those three. It was the strep. Only the strep actually produced anti-tumor properties to protect us. So that's just interesting information. What? It's 9:30. I didn't know that, you guys. I'm sorry. Wow. Wow. Got old. Anyway, I guess I gotta go. My gosh. How did I not know this? Uh anyway, yeah, you guys. So I got you next week. And remember, sign up for that get on that list because for the inner circle, because then you will get access starting. Yeah, isn't this great? I moved to the beach to get away from everything. And there's monsters. You can see why I love technology. I love it, and I love machines. And yeah. Oh, anyway, thank you so much. Sawadi Cup. Aloha. Namaste. And we'll see you next week. Where is the thing here? Ah, there we go.